The death of Queen Anne in 1714 left Britain with no direct heir. Her 17 children were gone, lost to illness, and so the crown passed to a distant German relative, George of Hanover, a man who barely spoke English. He ruled with cold detachment, spending more time in Hanover than in England. Parliament gained power, and Britain's monarchy became a puppet to ministers. Meanwhile, in the Scottish Highlands, loyalists to the exiled Stuarts, known as Jacobites, rose in rebellion in 1715. But their cause was crushed, and their lands fell into ruin, their people hunted and exiled. George I's reign ended in 1727 as it had begun, in exile. He suffered a stroke in his carriage while traveling in his beloved Hanover. His son, George II, took the throne, but he too remained a king detached from his people. His reign was one of war and insurrection. In 1745, the Jacobites made their final desperate stand. Led by Bonnie Prince Charlie, they marched south, reaching Derby, just 120 miles from London. For a moment, it seemed the Stuarts would reclaim the throne, but hesitation proved fatal. The army retreated to Scotland, and at the Battle of Culloden, the Jacobite cause was slaughtered into oblivion. But Britain was also fighting across the world. The War of Austrian Succession and the 7 Years' War consumed Europe, the Americas, and Asia. At the Battle of Plassey, Robert Clive secured British dominance in India, laying the foundation of an empire. Meanwhile, James Wolfe's victory at the Battle of Quebec crushed French power in North America. Britain was on its way to global supremacy, but at great cost. In 1760, George II died suddenly of a heart attack while sitting on the toilet, an unceremonious end to a king who had spent his life on the battlefield. Then came George III, a king unlike his predecessors. He was British-born, spoke the language, and loved his country. He was known as Farmer George, obsessed with agriculture, science, and reform. But his reign was a paradox, marked by great expansion and catastrophic loss. The American colonies rebelled in 1775, and despite Britain's military might, they could not be contained. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris confirmed Britain's humiliation. For the first time, a part of the empire had slipped away. The Industrial Revolution began to reshape society. Factories rose, steam engines roared, and machines replaced hands. The Napoleonic Wars became Britain's greatest test. Heroes were forged. Admiral Nelson destroyed the French fleet at Trafalgar, but died in victory, and in 1815 the Duke of Wellington crushed Napoleon at Waterloo, ending France's dreams of conquest. Yet even as Britain triumphed, George III crumbled. His madness, now believed to be porphyria, became uncontrollable. In 1811, his son took over as Prince Regent, ruling in his place. George IV officially took the throne in 1820, when his father died. He was self-indulgent, gluttonous, and cruel. He had married Caroline of Brunswick, but their union was a disaster. When he barred her from his coronation in 1821, the public turned against him. Crowds booed him in the streets, and he drowned his sorrows in food, alcohol, and luxury. With George IV's death, his brother William IV took the throne, and the Georgian era neared its end. Britain was no longer the land of the agricultural kings of Hanover. And in the shadows of this crumbling monarchy, a new era was rising. Soon, a young princess named Victoria would take the throne, and Britain would never be the same again.